Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another exciting episode of Colney Talk Podcast, your bite-sized breakdown show. I'm your host Alex. First-time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 Arsenal players who shined and one odd player not good enough I get to call out. Arsenal's 2 win at Leicester wasn't a symphony. It was an improvisation in a hurricane of frustration. Yeah, that's a tongue twister. A match where logic got lost in King Power's stadium rafters and where a teenager rewrote the script and Mikel Merino turned striker for 21 minutes and decided chaos was his canvas. Let's be clear, folks. This wasn't football. This was survival art. A good one that I applaud the actors that stood out and everyone involved to make it such a good story that we're talking about right now. The traveling fans didn't just sing. They breathed life for this team. Every nervy clearance, every flicker of hope was met with chorus. It felt like the stands were wired directly to the players' good set of plays. When Merino bundled in the opener, the relief did so much for the players on the pitch that worked so hard for this win. It shifted the discussion into a much more commendable reflection. This wasn't about perfection, folks. This was about a squad staring down the throat of despair, realizing conventional wisdom at times can be overrated. It's about leaning on belief and having everyone pushing in the right direction or in the same wave to get that outcome. So let's dissect this beautiful mess. First half, starting with the uncomfortable truth, Arsenal looked like a team that had misplaced its instruction manual for the first 70 minutes. The opening 45 was just a disjointed collage of half ideas. On paper, though, the front three of Trossard, Sterling, and Ait-Nouri promised fluidity, albeit some learning curve or getting themselves to figure out their ways. In reality, it felt like 3 artists trying to paint the same canvas with entirely different brushes. I can understand how difficult it can be asking some players to fill in a space where they might not transmit their best qualities, but that doesn't negate the loss in form though, does it? Really, Arsenal's attacking starters stem from structural dissonance and individual failure for sure. Sterling's hesitancy to commit defenders created this kind of domino effect that Trossard drifted too deep to compensate, while Nwaneri's youthful exuberance lacked synced timing with Odegaard's orchestration at the start of the game. Now, without a true number 9 to pin Ward Farsi and Caleb Okoli, Leicester's backline stepped up unpunished. Now, that turned Arsenal's possession into a maze of lateral passes a lot of times. When it seemed like we might write the wrong plays, we'd just lose it altogether outright. And adaptation arrived late for the team, but not from the ones that I hoped would have carried this team much more, at least impacted that rhythm that we, would help get them forward as they would manage to do. Now, let me talk about the good in the first half. Defensive discipline, while Saliba and Big Gabby operated like a pair of unflappable librarians, Timber was equally superior. Leicester's early attempts to exploit transitions, particularly through Ayew's diagonal runs, were smothered by number 12. So he stood his own. He covered a lot. In fact, did a lot more in terms of any deficiency coming from Thomas Partey. But that's a team and that's a collective effort. So, very good to recognize Timber's defensive presence. And then Nwaneri's fearlessness. This guy, this 17-year-old, he played with the kind of audacity of someone who'd never heard the word pressure. His first half dribble pass in Didi near the touchline was a flash of I belong here energy. Even with his shot shaving the top bar, he was the player that everyone, in fact, I can assume that everyone wanted for him to have the ball a lot more. and the horrible parts of the first half. Sterling's crisis of confidence. Man, every touch from Raheem Sterling felt like a confession of doubt. There was a moment where he received the ball in space on the left, froze, and then opted for a back pass to Timber instead of taking on Justin. And that's a veteran right there. The exasperated groan from the crowd said it all. And the static build-up that Arsenal had from that as well. I mean, our possession resembled a slow-motion chess match. Yeah, slow cooking is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But as much as we recycle the ball methodically, there were moments of no urgency, no incision. You would have the ball in the box and no one to take on the shot. I mean, that is a big worry in the situation that we need someone and a collective to step up and make that effect. I could feel the tension piling on as the half was just wrapping up. I mean, where could we possibly find that answer? Certainly, it shouldn't be one person in this current time that we're trying to find someone to lead the pack in terms of attacking. I guess in our case of someone to get the spark for cohesive attack, I mean, anyone is fully welcome. And Arsenal's lack of focal point up front turned attacks into cul-de-sacs. Trossard, drifting into false nine spaces, found himself marked out by Farce and El Canoes. And meanwhile, Vardy lurking around like a predator waiting for that defensive slip-up that never came. It did slightly, but we made sure we contained him. Although Leicester had that meaningful chance in the first half, and that we could have been one short. It was something worrisome to wrap up the first half. And then the second half, the Merino experience unleashed. The halftime team talk, I'm sure, clearly involved a lot of whiteboard discussion and a bold red marker somewhere because Mikel Merino as the striker, I mean, that was a genius move as it turned out because it paid off big time. Huge credit to Arteta and the staff and how they thought through and knew that this would be something that we might possibly lean into. I mean, who would have imagined that Merino's spatial IQ, like thrust into like an alien role, yet perfectly played like a striker with the skills to find the gaps and exploit them. Like his movements for that first goal, a late dart into the 6-yard box to meet Nwaneri's cross, was a textbook of a poacher's instinct, and he had an early chance as well. And it's a revelation to everyone now, and there's no secret. And I had to watch it back again because I was scared he may have been offside because we started the game with some offside FC, but that was thankfully not up for debate at all. So there's a lot to consider given that, feature, because he was playing a role and trying to be really good at it, and offsides will always be one of those culprits when you're not necessarily considering all the other elements. He did that brilliantly. Ait-Nouri has already broken out, so I wouldn't say this was it for him in terms of a breakout game. He's already done that, and he's doing it like at different levels. This teenager transformed from promising talent to protagonist. Can you imagine that? His second half curl that rattled the posts was a statement like, I'm ready. And then the assist for Merino's opener, I mean, a cross so precise, it could have been measured with a ruler. He was incredible. Now, for 80 minutes, though, Arsenal's high line flirted with disaster. A better team might have punished us. And big applause to Miles Lewis-Kelly. He saved us big time. In fact, I think that's when the game turned its head and we had to do something. This was the survival art and exercise that we are going to have to extend for a period of time. Arteta's repurpose of Merino highlighted Arsenal's injury-driven scarcity, but it also had the adaptability that we used at a full length. But we have to find stability from that as well. We do not have a break in between and recovery time to look for a savior from most of our players that are hurt. This is what we got. This is what we have to work with. And the players now, we have to transform them to something great in terms of attack, because what we have, it's not something to write home. I was relieved of this fear that we couldn't grind out a win. Yes, we kind of did, but not in the fashion that it turned out for us. But there's still more tinkering. There are still more possibilities, and I welcome them. I mean, these players that have flashes and the spatial intellect or the awareness to play as a striker or someone forward, all are fully welcome. That's me just saying this right now. A game of two halves divided by substitution for 70 minutes. Arsenal mandared, then a 17-year-old and a midfielder turned striker rewrote the script. That was a wonderful game for unlikely heroes to stand out, and it was amazing. Now, let me touch on my top three players who really stood out in this match. First up, Declan Rice. He dominated midfield battleground, snuffed out Leicester's counters with, crucial interceptions. He was playing that full role of a workhorse. Managed to dictate the tempo under pressure, dropped into a quasi center back role to bypass Leicester's press, and threading some beautiful passes to get things going in attack. And I think this was more so about, being the, compadre to Odegaard on the left to service Trossard or get him somehow into the attacking structure that we needed. Another moment, the second half header to clear dangerous crosses was accompanied by a roar so loud that, it gave us the belief that defensively we didn't have a problem. It was just more so of how much we could do in front. And he couldn't stop pushing. Even at 2-0, Rice was sprinting, all the way down, closing down on any pressure that he would see. And that really epitomized the relentless leadership that he has. And that's huge. Second player, who else? Nwaneri. He was so good when he did the unexpected. That audacious nutmeg and then the shots, I remember his composure as well within this game, as scoreless as it was. He was the one that was taking the shots, meaningful at that, driving without any scare, no hesitation. There's so much to applaud Nwaneri in this game, but I may not be doing full justice. Another moment was that cross for Merino's opener. That composure and whipped a perfect delivery that was just enough to dissect between Faes and Colney. That is the kind of crosses you see Saka coming to do. And those comparisons will keep going because he's the only one doing it for now, and he's doing it without any kinds of hesitation. He couldn't stop pushing. His rattling strike was just a declaration of the guy we know we're going to feed the ball a lot more in attack. I'm not going to worry about how much they're going to put a lot of emphasis on him, but I'm sure he's going to say bring it on. So I'm looking forward to it. Third and final player, Mikel Merino. He dominated the box. His first goal as he out-jumped, Christensen. That's what we were looking for. He has done that with all our corner FC plays, and he's doing it now as a striker. That really came out really well in his locker in that position. He managed to redefine what versatility means. Playing 21 minutes as a striker, scoring twice. That second goal, though, man, that's a striker-esque type of, composure to slot it right in. And, yeah, we know where we expect Merino to be when the call sheet comes out for the next game. And his run off the ball goes back to the intelligence and the instincts that he has. And again, those both goals perfectly in line with being onside and really attacking the ball at the final moment. So big ups to him. He was so good when he did the simple things. Stayed central, trusted the movement, and he was everywhere. In fact, in some moments, he had to connect with the midfield to make sure things were going as we needed. And there's a lot to applaud him for. Now, as you would all imagine, the odd player here, Raheem Sterling. There's no way to sugarcoat it in any shape. His performance was a cry for help. His decision-making echoed a player trapped in something that I'm not sure about. This is a time and this is a chance where he should do something make a spark, build some confidence of his own, because this is a position for him to lose. We don't have enough player. We don't have any player to sub him off and have him come afterwards. So he gets first call sheet as an attacker. But it's crazy how much of this depth of confidence he has lost, or a shadow of what he can do. I mean, that the hesitation syndrome, multiple times he received the ball in promising positions only to pause, allowing Leicester to regroup. The vacuum of, snapshots of when he just didn't know what to do when he would drive with the ball and, lose it right in front. It felt to me in those moments like he wanted to lose, not intentionally want to lose the ball, but was expecting to lose the ball. So he was playing without any confidence within himself and looking for some sort of a foul or ball called or something. And that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong way to show it. And when he was replaced by Merino, I mean, the way he trotted off with the demeanor of a man who had forgotten his lines in the play or in the script or in the game plan. I mean, I think it's a heavy nail in the coffin that he has to work out. It's understandable where there are some games where he would shine and play better. Leicester was one of them. He had the chance to dribble past, do a lot of those things that he could do, make several runs, drive with the ball, make several shots, but none of those existed. So he's definitely being called out. There is no hiding behind anything. In fact, he just made himself what it is, and it's so unfortunate. But we'll see. If there's a chance for redemption, it's for him to do, and hopefully he could do it in a time that is very meaningful right now when we have nothing, really. So that's that. This was not a pretty game until very late. Merino, Ait-Nouri gave us something to be thankful for, and that's enough for me. For now, though, let's enjoy the win, Gunners. We have reasons to keep fighting, and that's what we're gonna do. The support will never fade. We'll go back to the lab and we'll continue working. Okay, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. Until then, take care.